New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good afternoon and welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. I am Rev Gina and I am blessed to be the host of this hour where we find the joy in the journey. And what does that mean? Well, I look at it as anything that I believe is worth teaching is worth really understanding. So what does it mean to have joy in our life? How do we find it? And as I've spent a lifetime looking at that and really encompassing and embodying that word, I know that as spirit within me is joy, that it is an inherent divine quality that is always present. Now, whether or not I'm feeling it or experiencing it, that's up to me. And for most of my life, I didn't realize it was always there. You know, we live in a society of bigger, better, faster, more. And we practice often what I call destination happiness, which means when I have this goal, well, then I'll be happy. When I have the right job or the right mate, then I'll be happy. When I've, gotten there, wherever there is. It's not about the next vacation. It's not about the car that we drive. It's about right here, right now, experiencing joy. So what I do every week is I invite different wonderful guests who are experiencing joy in their lives and ask them, how do they do that? What brings them joy? And how do they stay on their path to joy? And today we have a wonderful guest that I'm excited to introduce you to. She is one of our newer members of the New Thought Media Network family and has a show coming out soon. And I'm very excited about it. And we get to go a little bit into that. But I want you to meet Reverend Allie Benjamin, who is an ordained minister and transformation coach. She's also an artist. And she found the Satya Center for Conscious Living in Ogden, Utah in 2009 and serves as the director. Reverend Allie has been a member of affiliated New Thought Network since 1995. And if for those of you who tuned in last week, we also were talking about NTMN as well. So it's just amazing how things just keep flowing. She served on the board of directors from 2016 to 2020 and on the Big Sky Retreat board of directors from 2017 to 2022. She loves to paint, meditate, dance, hike, and travel. She lives in Salt Lake City, Utah with her husband, Michael. She is the host of Growing Edge Live with Allie Benjamin, Spiritual Tune In and Tune Up, which airs each Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on New Thought Media Network, as well as the Growing Edge podcast. She enjoys guest speaking, teaching, facilitating art and soul workshops. She works with the Bridging the Loss Healing Project, supporting those who have lost loved ones to accidental overdose, or suicide. And her mission is to share her empowering message to overcome life's challenges, healing from trauma and loss, activating authentic power, unleashing creative energy, and living on a joyride. So clearly, she belongs here as a guest. And I introduce you to Reverend Allie Benjamin. Welcome. Welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. It's great to have you here. How are you today?
Well, thank you. I'm great, thank you. And thank you so much for having me to be a guest on your show. I love the title, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you and this community and sharing a little bit more about me. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have we have Shay Michelle Davis, who was here. Actually, she was here last week with, she has a new show coming up as well. We have some amazing things coming up. So thank you, Shay. It's good day to you as well. And how exciting it is to have all this new energy coming forth on New Thought Media Network. So welcome to the team. Welcome to this high energy group of people that are here to spread the word of joy and a positive, light into the world. And without a doubt, the time that I spent with you, I can see that you absolutely are that light. So thank you. And, I want to start with the name, because I love the name of your show. And you've been using that name for your work as well for years. Growing Edge Live. Let's start with that. And I know that's actually the name of your show, but you have one already as well, right?
Yeah. Actually, we have a Growing Edge Live Sunday broadcast, and that is really our Sunday service for our Satya community, which is the center that my husband and I founded here in Utah. And so Growing Edge Live, yeah, it's our Sunday broadcast, and now it's kind of morphing over to become this beautiful show on the New Thought Media Network on Mondays, starting, I might say, in June on the 19th.
How exciting.
Yeah.
June 19th. So mark your calendars, everyone, so that it's on Mondays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, correct?
Yep, that's it. And my first guest is going to be Robert. So
how fun is that? That's wonderful. Okay. He's definitely growing edge, or we wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah,
Exciting.
exactly.
And I want people to know that, and actually Shay's saying welcome. She's welcome to the family. And I wanted to ask you, when it came to New Thought Media Network, what attracted you to this? How did you find us?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, just to go back to answer your first question about Growing Edge and how did I come to that name?
Yes, definitely. Sorry, I'm getting ahead
of myself. No, but this is great because it all ties in. So Growing Edge, I first heard that term and it really dropped in for me when I was attending the Big Sky Retreat, which is a retreat that serves the New Thought communities. People from all communities come together in Montana and have a great time. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I was in a workshop with Mary Mann and Morrissey, and she was talking about creating a life of your dreams, building your vision. And she referred to a story, some mystic from England, of course, I'm from England. Some mystic from England had used that term of the green growing edge of your own becoming. Mm-hmm. It could be Dame Julian of Norwich. I'm not sure, but I think that's who said that. So the green growing edge of your own becoming, that really lit me up. It's probably why I'm wearing green today for this show. I didn't plan that, but so that green growing edge is really that it signifies being on the edge of your own evolution, being on the edge of your own, whatever you're manifesting and creating. And then it also sort of refers to bumping up against your edge, like what's stopping you from moving forward into your dreams. So I thought the name Growing Edge was kind of catchy and edgy, and sort of described what I am interested in talking about with people on my show, which is, what are they working on? How are they bringing their vision into reality? And so that's how I came up with the growing edge.
And I love this. And this is some information that you had put on, and I do love this. No spiritual bypassing, no quick fixing, wholehearted connection.
Yeah. So I was at that retreat, and like my bio was mentioning, served on the board there. And so I knew, I came to the retreat and I'm organizing alongside everyone else. And then all of a sudden I see someone with a camera, like a filming camera. And I said to one of my board members, who's this? Who's filming here? I don't remember us having hired someone or organized someone to film. And my board members, they look at me and they're like, well, I don't know either. We don't know who this person is. And so I went and met the person with the camera, and he had a bright colored coat on, and he was very gregarious and flamboyant. And he said, I'm Robert, and I'm from New Thought Media Network. And that was just like over my head. I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but nevertheless, he had a particular energy and a vibrancy to him that was attractive. And then later on during this retreat, I had the opportunity of being on one of his shows, his regular shows. Yep. That we filmed there. And so that's how I met Robert. And it took me a couple of years to come back around and have a conversation with him about actually doing something with the New Thought Media Network myself. And so that's how I found out.
Well, wonderful to have you here. And, it's a wonderful thing to me. I love that New Thought is coming together. That there's one umbrella that is now coming together in a greater way, because we know there's only one. So to have splinters of, or to look at it as separate, it may be a separate organization or company, but it's all one. We're all part of this oneness of New Thought. And it's been a great thing for me. The show has actually been on for over 2 years, this show in this format. And it's been a joy, no pun intended. It has been a joy to see so many wonderful people sharing their experiences of how they got to where they are and what it means to them to move forward in that. So I'm going to ask you that, as far as when it comes to New Thought, how did you find New Thought?
Wow. Well, I think I was in my 20s and struggling with a relationship that was very unhealthy. And at that particular time, I had 3 young children. And I went to a swap meet one day, and it was a kind of swap meet where people, kind of like garage sale, they bring all their stuff. And so there were all these different people with all of their stuff. And I had been like just newly exposed to self-help. And I found this one person that had a blanket laden full of crystals and books and all kinds of fascinating things that were, like little trinkets and things that were intriguing to me as a 20-something spiritual seeker. And I gravitated towards the books, and I picked up Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And I'm sure there are people watching the show going, oh, that's how I came to New Thought as well, or that's how I first started
one of my
journey.
First books, definitely.
And so and this was in, I think, 1989, in San Diego County, California. And this book, I read it and I looked up Louise Hay. I did a little research. Who is this Louise Hay person? And I found that she was a religious science minister. And lo and behold, I found there was a religious science church close by. And so I went to the what was it called? It was a United Center, or not, United Church of Religious Science in Vista, California, with Brian Anderson and Sheila Anderson as the ministers. And that was my first experience with New Thought, science of mind, religious science. And I just never went back. I dived in and raised my children up in the culture of taking responsibility for their lives and their thinking. And it was a really good match for me. And it really helped me to do a lot of my own healing and helped me to develop the idea that I could create a better life for myself and my kids.
And I love the wording that you use, taking responsibility for your life. And that's a powerful statement, because that's one of the things that we teach. It's not about blame, or it's not about, it's definitely not in any way a negative thing, because if you're not aware, you're not aware. But when you find out how something works, you then have the opportunity to move in a different direction. You become, instead of the passenger, you're now in the driver's seat in a new and creative way. And it is, that power can be joy. To me, it's a joyful cutting edge, because now you realize you get a choice. And before, you can't, oftentimes we're creating things we don't want. We're focused on the negatives, or we get caught up in what we see in the world instead of what we choose to see.
Yeah. It was really like putting on a new set of sunglasses, or prescription glasses, so I could see more clearly, I should say. Yeah. And when you talk about responsibility, I think of the ability to respond,
Yes.
responsibility. And so my ability to respond from a more awakened place was what occurred with that, with just with the title of that book, You Can Heal Your Life.
Yes.
That it was that, oh, okay, I can respond to life differently and have different results.
Absolutely. It is an incredible, that's the first book that I encourage people, if they're new to New Thought, that's the first book I suggest. And as a coach myself, that's something that I always, encourage people to read, because you think about how we live our lives, and sometimes, we're not taught that it is a good thing to have these affirmations, to see ourselves in a clear way, as opposed to, it's not arrogance. To appreciate ourselves is a beautiful thing. We need to do that to be able to move forward in a positive direction. And there's a far cry between arrogance and affirmations. Knowing who and whose we are is just, that's confidence. And especially for women, well, actually for anyone, there's often a mixed signal there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to your coaching, I know that you've been coaching for years. Tell us a little bit about how you coach, or what type of, what is it that are you a life coach? What type of a coach are you?
I don't know that I've really owned a particular sort of label, but most people that come to me have a longing to have a closer walk with the divine. So they're coming to me to probably, or typically, because there's been a challenge that they faced, a crisis of sorts, and they want to overcome something, but they also want spiritual support in that, and typically learn how to craft a life that's more grounded in spirit. And so a lot of my coaching addresses and supports people right where they are, dealing with whatever they're dealing with, whether it's overcoming something or wanting to begin something, a particular project, or move forward in their life in a different way, bring their vision more tangibly forward as their life. And so typically I meet with my clients once or twice a month, and that seems to be enough to sort of hold them, support them, cheer them on, hold them accountable, and help them to really establish a connection. I think this is the core, this is like the crux. Help them establish a really clear, constant connection with their higher self, aka the universe, aka divine mind, aka God. And so my coaching is about slowing down. It's about tuning in. It's about developing that clear connection. I just got off of a coaching call right before this show, and I was talking to my client about, when you set your phone down on the other side of the room and you've got it on speaker and you're busy doing the dishes, or you're doing something and you're having a conversation with someone from across the room and you're kind of yelling and you can't really hear them and you're busy doing something else, and then put in the different scenario of actually holding the phone up or having your earbuds in and being like right there, and you're not doing the dishes and you're sitting and you're listening and you're present. There's a difference between that, talking from across the room and being right up personal and close. And that's what I'm hoping that my clients can begin to appreciate, the power of being present with yourself, being tuned in to that still small voice, and having clear and constant and steady access to that higher intelligence from your soulful self, so that you can make heart, mind, body centered decisions moving forward in life. And so I have lots of powerful practices to help people stay engaged on the phone with God, really, with a clear connection. And so that's basically what I do, and I love doing it. My clients love it too, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do it. So
it's a a wonderful thing when ministry comes into becomes the vocation. And I know it's a little different from New Thought than others. There's a different kind of it's not always that way. Like there's some ministers that they minister on Sunday and they do whatever during the week. And I think with New Thought there's a lot of it's a very different world. And when you can bring those two together, and you are the mentor, you are the coach, you are the minister, you are that light, and you are living in a way that is shining. And that to me is why I invited you on, is to see that light and ask you, what brings you that light? How do you maintain that light?
mm-hmm. Well, I take my own prescription, so I am very tuned in to the importance of having a constant connection. So I was listening to a podcast this morning of Muji. I don't know if you know of he's a beautiful teacher and has an ashram in Portugal. And he was sharing a story of being awake. He was talking about being awake to life. And he likened it to when we're in a dream, where we might be having a nightmare, or you might be having whatever kind of dream, and then we wake up and we're in bed and we're like, oh my God, I'm glad that dream's over. And this is how I see awakening. Like, we get to be like awake but asleep. We're going about our lives, we're doing what we do, and we're totally identified with our mind. We're totally identified with our body, with our personality. And then we may bump into a, difficult situation or a challenge or bumping up against in a relationship, let's say. And when
Those
we
rough
come,
edges.
yeah, the rough edges, right? Our growing edge. And we have this tendency to engage at the level of the personality when us here on the spiritual edge of things, on our spiritual journey, we get to sort of wake up amidst that personality dream, and we wake up to our essential self that can then respond with, from our most awakened, most authentically centered, spiritually mature sense of self. So that's how I sort of stay awake and aware when I'm sort of riding the waves, the ups and downs, the emotional waves. My light stays on because I remind myself to wake up. Like when if I'm triggered, upset, angry, frustrated, whatever, that's a sign for me that I'm in a dream and I need to wake up. And so that really lights me up. That really, helps me stay being, holding that light, not only for myself and my family, but for our congregation and for the clients that I work with. But as far as what keeps that fuel, what fans that flame, I'm very, my whole life is sort of a spiritual playground. And so I have a beautiful altar. I could show you, but I'd have to move the camera. So I collect objects and place them on my altar. I've got lots of crystals and feathers that I found, and nature's always whispering to me. So I have a practice of making beautiful spaces. I'm also an artist. I find a very close connection to the divine, to my higher self, to wake up from the dream through my painting. And so that's something that's brought me a great lot of joy. And it's something that I love to share with others. So I think that the light that I feel in creating something beautiful, knowing that it's going to go and hang in somebody else's home or be a gift for them to give to someone, that's a way of, I feel my light moves out into the world. Also a way that I kind of filled up my cup. Last year I went on a pilgrimage. And so I make sure every year that I go to different retreats, go to take workshops, listen to inspiring speakers. But last year I was really dealing with some heaviness, some darkness, some depression, some grief. And I thought, I need to be by myself. I need to be away from my normal life, and I'm going to go on a pilgrimage. So I flew to Portugal and I walked the Camino to Santiago de Compostela. And that was 150 miles. I didn't do the whole thing, but 150 miles of having a really close walk with the divine, really having an opportunity to not only get in touch with that light that had dimmed within me, but to heal a lot of the sadness that was sort of keeping me on a low burn, or keeping that light dimmed. And it wasn't easy. It was physically challenging. It was emotionally challenging, but it was spiritually uplifting, like I can't even describe. It was magic. Yeah.
I've had a couple of people on. Reverend David Alt was talking about that as well. He had walked the Camino this past year. And
yeah, he's my buddy, and he helped me organize my trip, actually.
Wonderful. And it is so important that we remain awakened, as you said. And, I am definitely someone that multitasks. I am, as an adult, I didn't know. I always thought I was dyslexic. But I actually charted when I finally took testing, because years ago they didn't do that. Now they do, but years ago they didn't. And I tested off the charts for ADHD and ADD. So now I realize, and Doesn't mean I've necessarily changed anything, but I work on it and I catch myself doing 3 things at once and realizing that that takes away from all of them. And it makes it harder for me to pay attention in this moment and really appreciate it when I'm trying to do too many things at once or going from one to the next to the next. Life is right here right now, and the more we can be present in it, the more we can acknowledge the emotions and let that flow and that joy be. It's hard to recognize it sometimes when it's covered up by so many different things. That busyness can really seemingly block the light.
Absolutely.
And I love the language that you use with the spiritual playground. Your life is a spiritual playground. I love that. And, we get to choose that. I remember growing up, I didn't know anything about any of this. No, I grew up Catholic and I was not exposed to, the crystals or any of that stuff. I really was not exposed to anything until my 20s, I would say. And as I got older, I was definitely like a sponge and saying, well, what's that about? And what's that about? And I may have always, like, I always loved angels, but I didn't know that there was things, places to go and things to look for these things. And, I love it all. I love it all. So when you say the term spiritual playground, it just makes me smile because life is our playground. And too often people think growing up or growing older means that you age out of this in some way. It's always your playground. You always get to choose. And being serious doesn't mean not enjoying yourself.
Exactly. Joy doesn't have to come with a smile.
It doesn't have to, and it doesn't have to be taken away from anything. I remember one of the greatest lessons my mom ever gave, very young. And of course, for her, it was through a divorce that she was walking through. And she said, if anybody ever robs your joy, you get away from them and you go fast. And it was, at the time, I didn't know the levity of that. But as I got older, I appreciated how candid that was, how important of a lesson that was. That there are people that are miserable and they don't want to see you any happier than they are because it makes them uncomfortable or makes them feel, like they're missing something. We get an opportunity every day to choose. So how is it that, how does somebody, if they're stuck in that rut, and I want to encourage people, we are live. We would love to hear your comments. We would love to hear anything at all. We are live. How do you encourage people to find their way back to joy? So if someone comes to you feeling that grief, feeling that, and they can't walk the El Camino, they're not able to go to Portugal and they may not be in a place to be able to do that, what do you encourage them to do?
Well, first of all, I think it's so important that we learn to take good care of ourselves and to practice self-love, self-compassion, and I think that's really the first step, is turning that, lens inward to really develop that deep foundation of love and respect for self. And in that, deep connection with self and developing time just to enjoy the simple things. Having time in the morning for meditation, having time to go for a walk. I know for me, being outside in nature is something that's so, it's hard not to feel the joy of being alive when you're outdoors. And living here in Utah, we've got extreme seasons, temperatures. We've got the hot, hot, hot above the hundreds in the summer, and then the below freezings in the winter. And I always go for a walk every day. You know, I got really in the habit conditioning for the Camino, but I think most of my clients, those are the three first things that I help them to slow down enough to appreciate is self-care, time for meditation, and being outdoors and getting some exercise, and learning to just tend to this beautiful human creature that we are residing in, and feeding that beautiful soul, spirit, through meditation and self-love. I think it's so important. You know, I think of the first time that this was when we first opened the Satya Center back in 2009. And I was so on top of riding high, feeling so inspired. I accepted the invitation from God. I had started a body of work that was a ministry that was here in Ogden. Well, we used to live in Ogden, just above Salt Lake at the time. And in a very predominantly LDS or Mormon culture. So to start a New Thought Center here was quite a stretch, and people would, question me, oh my gosh, why there? But anyway, so I was really riding high. Things were going well. We started off small and we grew fairly quickly. And one day we lived in the Upper Ogden Valley, which is this beautiful, the town was named Eden. So, I mean, that's a snapshot of how beautiful this place is, just gorgeous. And it was sunny, it was early summertime, so it wasn't too hot. And I got on my bicycle and I am just riding along like a child, not a care in the world. And I had this transcendent experience. I felt it was a mystical ride. It was as though everything sort of dropped away. Everything that could have been heavy that I was concerned about or dealing with at the time just sort of dissipated. And I was in this high elevated state of connection. And there was a tangible feeling to it. There was a freedom of my mind, wasn't associated with my personality or my ego. And I was just feeling at one with everything, riding my bike. And this idea that I was God on a joyride. Like I was taking God on a joyride. The God that I am, my higher self, or God was experiencing itself through me as I'm riding the lanes of Eden, taking in all the wildlife, all of the cows and horses, the sunshine. And that's where I first felt this joy for no reason. And it's not really for no reason, but this joy that's there and available.
Yes.
When we get out of the way, like when we let the stories, drop, when we let our concerns drop away for a moment, and we're just feeding on the beauty and the abundance of God, of life, there's a light and a joy that transcends everything. And
I consider those spiritual experiences, those moments that in this moment, not only is all well, it's amazing. It just, everything else falls away and it's just being in awe. I've had a few of those myself. I understand. And it's not something that you can create. It just kind of strikes you when you're fully present in it. And it doesn't necessarily take being, it doesn't mean you're religious. You don't have to be, steeped in any teachings. I had one of those moments myself when I was in Australia. I was a study abroad for my senior year in college, and I spent a semester in Australia, and it was the Great Ocean Road, the 12 Apostles. And I'm inner city girl from East Boston, grown, literally. I mean, there was no grass anywhere near my home. Like there was nothing. There was one tree a block. I mean, it was really as cement city as you're going to get. And here I was surrounded by more beauty than I could put into words. And I felt like a speck of sand. I, in that moment, felt so minuscule in the universe, looking at this beauty as far as the eye could see. No houses, no people, no anything, just beauty at these 12 apostles. It was a rock formation, for anyone that's unaware, and it just, the Great Ocean Road itself was just beautiful. And I had no words in that awe of God that was just, it was like in a cartoon where you see that dizzy the dizzy above your head. So I understand what you're talking about on your bike ride. You don't know when it's going to strike you, but when it does, you want to stay there forever.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that that's always available, but we have to be present enough to allow it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that we can teach, but we can be open to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you never leave the inner city, you're not going to see anything like that. But you can witness it in a baby's laugh. There's moments that we experience in our lives if we can be fully present. When a baby, like an infant, giggles, or when a puppy's playing, or there's certain things that are just beyond, or your child, when you hold your child, or a family member's, a nephew or a niece. There's so many different moments in life that can be those spiritual experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as someone that talks, really invites people to practice meditation, and I know this hour is flying by, I'm wondering, how do you encourage someone that's never done it? Where do you begin?
Well, I usually invite them to meditate for 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute in the evening. And that's it. And I think that is such a relief to most people that have never meditated before, or have a story about meditation that they can't do it, or it's difficult, or they know it's good, but it's not for them. I think it's a relief to know that, oh, you mean I can meditate for 1 minute? And I see meditation as paying undistractable attention to what is. And so it's not so much a get in the lotus position and, get your breathing just right and have the perfect mudra going on and eyes closed. Like, it doesn't really matter if your eyes are open, if they're closed. Just sit down, lay down, take a walk, and for a minute, and could be for longer, obviously, but for a minute, just pay undistractable attention to what is. Not what was, not what might happen, but what is, in a way of non-attachment. So it's a witnessing it, and in that witnessing, in that paying undistractable attention to what is, then I introduce the idea of it's a one-sided conversation with God, and you're not doing any of the talking. You're just listening. You're just paying undistractable attention to what is. Eyes open, eyes closed, doesn't matter. Just do that. And so I suggest they do that for a week or a month or two, or until they start to see the benefits, start to prove to themselves And I think that's what Dr. Ernest Holmes had always intended with Science of Mind teachings, is you've got to prove this to yourself. You've got to put these principles into practice and feel what it means to live wide awake, to live on purpose, to live with a certain degree of mind mastery. And so people, after a while, after meditating and then reporting back to me, they'll let me know that, yeah, this meditation stuff, it's not as difficult as I thought. Actually, I can do it. Actually, doing it in short segments is right up my alley. No pun intended.
I appreciate that, because I was one of those people that the thought of, I bought all the books. I didn't necessarily read them, but I bought all the meditation books to try to figure out, how do I do this thing? And there's no way to get it wrong. And I encourage people. For me, it started with 3 minutes and an egg timer. And 3 minutes was excruciating. I kept looking like, is it broken? It can't possibly be, and whatever, that 1 minute, just being conscious is a wonderful, awareness. And when we realize, for some, it's really hard to do that, to stay focused without allowing the chatter, even for a minute, it shows us how distracted we can really be from life itself, and how that pulls from our joy, because it's hard to be joyful if we're not present. It's hard to be in that place of carefree and enjoying life when we're, in three different places at once, or always feeling like would have, could have, should have, and I know for me, that was a lot of what I was raised in, is that constant. So I appreciate that. And when we were speaking earlier this week, I asked you, what is your passion? Because I think that too, when we live our passion, when we are living in what we love to do, there's more joy there. And one of them was, of course, being the artist that you are. And the other was spiritual community. So if you can kind of give me a little more information on, what is spiritual community to you? What does that mean? And how do you get there?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's lots of ways that I experience community. And like, being the minister that I am, most of my communities are of a spiritual nature. And I have in-person communities, like the affiliated New Thought Network, been a part of that community since the 1990s. And so I've got historically friendships that have lasted for over 25 years to do with that affiliation. And so that's been a tremendous source of love and support for me, that has carried me, sort of been quite foundational for me as I've created bodies of work, started the Satya Center. It's just sort of always been there underneath things as I've transitioned through my life. And so that's a community that I lean on all the time. And being a part of that community, I think community, kind of going on a tangent here with Anton, but this is true for other communities I've been a part of. It's not only showing up in the community to get something, to get the love, to get the support, to get, some sort of fix, so to speak. It's also a community, well, particular communities give you an opportunity to serve, to show up, to shine your light. And so typically that's what I appreciate about the communities that I tend to choose to align with, is that I get a sense that there's something for me and there's an opportunity to give and to serve. And some of my most transformative times of growth, like quickenings or biggest shifts or cosmic 2x4 moments have been whilst working in groups, in communities, while organizing things. It's not always easy, is what I guess I'm trying to say. It can be, being in a community, all of your stuff's going to come up. And, I think a lot of people, especially when I was a pulpit minister, I'd see a lot of people come in to be a part of the community only for their stuff to come up, to be healed. And a lot of people feel that. They'll come into community and bump up against different personalities that might be challenging to them, or being a part of or hearing something from the pulpit that challenges them, and then there's that sort of like opportunity to grow through it. And not everyone has the fortitude or the wherewithal or the stick-to-itiveness enough to actually, stay with it. And so, that's one of the kind of the curse and the blessings of a spiritual community, I think, is that it's not always kumbaya and cookies and cuddles. It sometimes brings up your stuff, mirrors back to you where you need to grow. But that I've found across the board in most communities that I've been a part of. But being a part of the New Thought Media Network community, I'm brand new. I'm looking forward to meeting people and finding where I fit and how I can serve and how I can be fed. So that's a little bit about community, but I'm very passionate about building community. Right now it's online.
Yep.
And that fits me really well at the moment.
I think that, it's a new thing. Community online is new, but at the same time, it is another way to connect. And I think that it's all about connection. And I agree. I think spiritual community is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves, and community in general, and being in that place. One of the greatest ways to get out of your own stuff is to serve. Do a random act of kindness. It will make you happy. It's when we are focused on our own stuff, it's easy to get weighed down by it. But when we are in a place of being the light, being of service, being kind, those are things that cannot help but reveal the light, because you are being the light. Spirit in you, as you is you. It's for each one of us. That's how I feel. And when we are kind, when we are being that light, you can't help but smile, because you are the hands and you are the heart. You are the voice of spirit. And that's going to reveal joy. It's that simple. So when we walk into a spiritual community, or we are in one online, we're still in this oneness together. So whether people are at home or wherever they are watching, or they are commenting, or whatever it may be, it is such a gift to be part of. And especially on this network, for me, these are all people that are volunteering. These are all people that are giving of themselves to help others. And I find a particularly joyful group that does that. So I love this network, and I'm grateful that you are part of our team now. And I want to encourage people. And of course, there's our prayer team. I'm going to put that out there every morning and evening, 8:15 a.m. and p.m. It is so important people remember there's prayer here, and that's mountain time. So wherever you are, we can come together in the oneness and practice prayer. And actually, my community tonight, I'm going to mention, actually, tonight's topic is our relationship with the light. And Kenny Bovell, Reverend Kenny Bovell, is actually going to be the person that is leading that at this time. And that's actually 7 p.m. Eastern time. And that's for CSL Greater Boston that hosts it. But anyone is welcome. So 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'd love to have you. And it's always, every week is a different person that comes there and leads, a different spiritual leader. And again, it's spiritual community. It's a spiritual conversation. And I encourage people. So, wherever you are, really find that place that works for you, because there's so much love out there to share. Find your tribe. And I think that especially in New Thought, there are some wonderful tribes out there. So I thank you for leading your own tribe and bringing it and being part of this tribe. And the time always flies. And I want to encourage people to remember. So we are here with Reverend Allie Benjamin, and she does all kinds of coaching and speaking and counseling workshops. And I'm going to give you your information again so people can reach out to you. And your website is growingedgelive.com. People can reach you. And your email is allisonbenjamin@gmail.com. It's Allison J.
Yeah.
Allison J. Benjamin. And I always encourage people, if you're using your phone to watch this, take a screenshot. That way you have whatever it is that you need. And you can always also reach me. These are my email addresses as well. So I'd love to hear your comments or suggestions as well. So I would love any information that you want to pass off to me. So we only have a couple of minutes left, and I would love any final words.
Well, maybe I could do a quick prayer.
Absolutely. Love that.
Okay. All right. So let's take a moment to close our eyes and settle into the heart. Taking that 18-inch journey from the mind, the brain, down into the heart, and just settling there, belonging there for a moment, and feeling great gratitude for this beautiful conversation, these beautiful spiritual ideas and principles that have been shared, this joy, this light, this love. May it lift us all. May it guide us forward. May it inspire us and hold us as we move through our day and through our week and beyond. Great love, great blessings. May all beings be lifted up by the consciousness that we've shared today. I release this prayer with love, with joy, and with great gratitude. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much. And again, I want to mention that your show begins June 19th. It's a Monday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And it is exciting. And we cannot wait to be a part of that. And thank you for becoming part of this family. And, I wish you so many blessings on your path, and look forward to you coming back once you do start. I look forward to you coming back and letting us know all about it, how it's going, and all about the details of the show, because we didn't want to spill too many beans on that.
Thanks. I will. And thank you so much for having me. It's been really my pleasure. Thank you.
And I wish each one so many blessings as you step into this week. Know that joy is within you, and it's being present and allowing the beauty sometimes outside to rekindle the inside, but the inside is always available. So living in the light is what I wish for you this week and always. Blessings and love to all. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye-bye.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe.